Hi Mohini,
Hello.
welcome to Sudeep Audio's channel.
Pleasure.
We've interviewed your sister
Mm-hmm.
and she came up with a lot of things that you all did as kids
Right.
and how you all became musicians.
I know.
So, just as a quick run through, if you could share with us your childhood journey as a musician and what influenced you to become one. We know that your father was a musician and your mother was
Right.
a dancer.
I was 3, and all I could hear in the house was just music, day and night, different kinds of music. Because my mom used to be singing a lot those days. Used to do a lot of shows. She was completely inclined towards Hindustani classical, and my dad used to play for Bollywood movies. He has played in over like 500 movies, and he has worked with Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan and still works. I mean, a lot of other people, just to name a few. But back then, as a kid, when you're hearing all these different kinds of stuff in your house, it's floating all around you. All you could think about is what is going on, And of course, it's haywire for a 3-year-old to take all that. But I was trying to grasp things closely, and slowly, I started liking it. And my father noticed the interest towards music, especially when he was practicing one day in the house through his processor. We didn't have an amplifier that time, so he was using headphones, and he put the headphones in my ears, and he was practicing, and I started giving the right tempo, and he was amazed by that. And it suddenly, immediately, it clicked him that there is no female bass guitarist in the country. Maybe abroad there are. That time there were none in India. So my dad was like, why not start giving her lessons, and then if it's her choice, and whether if she wants to pursue it in future, she will. But there's no as such compulsion or any kind of thing that she has to do, or it's a how Bengali families are. They're so into music. So it was not something my dad wanted me to be. But of course, in a corner, he had this dream. Why not, So he started giving me lessons. I think I seriously started taking lessons when I was 7 or 6-ish. And from him. I had this. He actually cut pieces of wood, and he made a small bass for me. And we still have a picture of that bass and me sitting on my dada's lap, and on my lap was the small bass which was made by him. And I used to just practice this exercise which was called daddy mummy, daddy mummy, daddy mummy, and it was just exercise of right hand, and of course tiny fingers. And that time, it's so overwhelming for a father to see his own daughter playing, at that age. And like I said, I started taking lessons when I was 6-ish, and that time I got my first bass, which was a Fender Jazz 4-string, which was also owned by my dad, and he used to play that. Since I grew up, and the bass that he had made started to seem like it was too small for me, and because the fretboard, it was not perfect. It was imperfect a little bit. Of course, he's not a professional, but he just wanted something for me to have so that I can practice. So when I was 6-ish, I took his bass, Fender Jazz bass, and I started to take lessons on that bass. And I remember spending like 5-6 hours every day. I'll tell you my schedule. Every day I would get up at 5 a.m. in the morning. 6 a.m. my bus used to come, pick me up, take me to the school, assembly, do the school hours, come back home by 12 p.m. And then 12:30 I would do lunch, and then take a shower, freshen up a little bit, and do your school homework, which would consume like 3-4 hours. You know how school homeworks are. And then my private tutor used to come by 5-ish, 6-ish, and she would teach me for 3 hours or 2.5 hours every day. And by the time she would go, it would be like 7, and then I would do her homework, which she would give me. So it's like 2 different schools, It's like the whole day is consumed by just school and homework and studies, which made no sense to me because I was taking music. Like music was something I enjoyed doing, and when I went to school every day, I felt like an alien because my maturity and my outlook towards things, and just the way I spoke to everybody and what was going around me, I just couldn't understand, and I just couldn't fit in because I was hanging out with 55-year-olds and 40-year-olds, all these uncles, and I've always been the daughter of the band, so I've always ended up hanging out with these people. And like I would accompany my dad to studios where he would record for movies or jingles, and then I would accompany him to venues where he would perform. So yeah, I've been used to that kind of environment. So every time I would go to school, it would be like, whoa, like what is this? I don't fit into this. So I would come back home and I would tell mom that, I don't want to do this. And she's like, no, you have to do this at least till 10th standard. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Now that you've stepped into it, why not just complete it? So yeah, like my teacher used to go by 7:30ish, 7ish, and then I would do her homework, which would go on till like 8 p.m. And then I would have my dinner by 8:30, and then do my music practice till 12 a.m. or 11:30, and then again get up at 5 a.m. in the morning next day. So I used to be like a machine. So now when I work, I don't feel like I work a lot. But today it doesn't feel like I'm working a lot because I have been used to that kind of schedule. And just that people tell me that, how do you manage all this work by yourself, because you don't even have somebody who takes care of things that you handle. And I'm like, you know what, I think I'm very used to it because I was workaholic from a very young age. And so then I would take my lessons every day from my dad. And I think my first show that I did was at the age of 10. It was in Calcutta. It was organized by my dad. So I don't consider it as a show because it was for my father. But that was my first live performance. And it was with my sister. And then after that, I did a show. It was with Shreya Ghoshal in Powai, in Mumbai. It was for this Durga Puja something. I remember that was my second performance. And then I think like 11. Yeah, 11.
So did you have that stage confidence?
Yeah, I did. I didn't have no fear. I remember in school when I used to get called for like, elocution competitions, and like you have to come on stage and you just blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, I would do that because you get marks for that. And that was something that was counted in exams. So you have to do it. But every time I would come on stage and I have to speak, I would lose confidence in school because I feel like I didn't belong to this world. So I would be really scared on stage. But then when I was with my bass, I felt like so comfortable, and I didn't feel like I would see people in the audience and it would make me smile. So I don't remember getting nervous or anything. I very much enjoyed, and I came back home smiling, telling my father. It was actually, Shreya didn't even know that I was coming. I just substituted for my dad because he was busy, and I went. I remember, and like after a couple of years when I met Shreya, she was like, yeah, I remember you played in my show, and she's a sweetheart. So that was my first ever performance. And then slowly people started knowing me as I started playing with other people like Ranjit uncle, who I got introduced to by my dad because they were friends. And everybody knows the story how I was introduced to him. So I went to his studio one day and then started playing with him. And he got blown away, and he took me under his wing and said that, then I basically just went to his studio almost twice or thrice a week to play with him. And
what about school?
School?
Yeah,
I used to manage school. I would bunk school days. Like, there was this 75% attendance compulsion or something. I said, I can't do it. I'm sorry. And the school kind of supported me that way. But colleging was hard. After I finished school, 11th standard, I used to go to this college nearby my house. And every time I would enter college, all I could hear is people, speaking in Gujarati and Marathi. And, it was not a very high-end college. But since it was close to my house, and it would not consume a lot of time because time was so precious for me, and I wanted more time to practice. So that's why I chose that college. I mean, I didn't choose it, but I had given some options. After board exams, you have to give some college names, and I didn't put Midhibai at all because it's so far away from my house. So the government basically chose this college for me, and it was like 10 minutes away from my house. So I used to go every day, and I felt like, no, I don't want to do it. I came back home one day and I told my dad, I don't want to do it. And dad is like, okay, just do your music then. Then I stopped going to college. So halfway through, I think after 2 weeks I stopped going to college, and then my dad was like, so do you think you want to study ahead? Do you think you want to do 12th? Because all my friends that time, I mean, I didn't have as such friends, but like the people I used to take notes from, they were staying nearby me. So and their families were kind of good friends with my family, my parents. So they would question my parents, asking that, so is she not going to study or anything? So my dad would be like, you know what, if she wants to, she can. If she doesn't want to, it's totally fine. So there was no such pressure or anything. So I said, you know, maybe I can do 12th, because I had a huge gap in between because I stopped going to college, and I was like, you know what, let's just do 12th also. So I didn't give exams for 11th, but you can give 12th exams as a private student via correspondence. So that's how I did. I gave my 12th board exams, and then I quit studying, like, completely. Because it was, I remember crying during my board exams because I was flying in and out. I was already working with AR that time. So I was flying in and out from Chennai, Bangalore, Mumbai. Like, these places were like the common destinations I would travel in and out. And I remember crying during my board exams, telling my mom that, you know, I don't think I'm going to score well. Mom is like, it's totally fine, you know, it's absolutely fine. Just pass. And I'm like, yeah, that I know I will. And yeah, I remember AR and me, we were recording before my accounts exam. At 4 a.m. in the morning, I was in Chennai, okay? And AR was like, stay more, and we want to do more songs. This was for Nuffs. I don't know if you know Nuffs. It's a vocal band with just bass in it. So 8 vocalists and just bass in it. Like, if you type on YouTube, you will see the videos where I am looking like a sadhu, and it's a very like a Blue Man Group kind of an idea. So all the people are painted white. So I was painted white from my head to toe, white. And my hands were sprayed fluorescent orange, so like lights would go off and my hands will glow, you know, stuff like that. Very creative stuff. And so I remember recording for that project at 4 a.m. and we finished like 2 songs, and he wanted to do more. And I said, you know what, I have exams. I have to take this flight, and straight from the airport I have to go to my center and give my exams. So I was like, okay, we'll book you the next flight, which like after your board exams. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Okay. And I remember my mom was with me that time. She was sleeping on the sofa while me and Aya were talking and, you know, doing this project. Memories. And
so she used to travel with you?
Yeah, she used to travel with me back then. But from the age of 16, I started traveling alone, 16 or 17.
You feel comfortable enough?
Oh, yeah. I, in fact, fought with my parents that I want to travel alone because I wanted to, you know, like, because people wouldn't talk to me as such because, yeah, like your guardian is with you, right? And people kind of have this fear, like you cannot open up to the person and you cannot talk openly because your parent is with you. So I could sense that as a kid. And I told my mother, you know what, I think I can do this. And but I'll still take you here and there whenever I feel like, if it's a good place, and I still do that. So I told her, now I want to travel alone. I want to do things by myself. So I got my first card that time. Like I started handling my bank. Yeah, I remember fighting for that as well. You know, as a kid, every kid goes through that phase.
So did your father get involved in the negotiations for payments and stuff?
No.
As a kid, it's difficult, no?
No, so I was a very aggressive kid that way. Like, I would clash with my dad every now and then because he has a different way of looking at things and I have a different way of looking at things. Maybe the generation gap, that's where it comes. And I would always clash on a few topics, actually a lot of topics, but now we have come to a point where we meet at the same point, and I have managed to change their outlook on a few aspects, and I'm proud of that. And yeah, and now we're at a good place mentally and in every manner. So like back then, he would not talk about my personal stuff. My mom would be the one to, you know, talk about my personal stuff. So I would talk to her. But my dad would give me advice on how you should approach people, how you should deal with people. And he would be like, like when I would talk to people about payments and stuff, he would be like, okay, this is something you can charge with this musician, or this is something you can talk to and you cannot talk to, stuff like that. So, but like slowly, I felt like I can take stand for myself, and because some things I just wanted it to be my way. So I, talked through and just told them how I feel and how I want things to be. And at first, of course, every parent has a problem, but then slowly it changed because I succeeded. And I proved to them that, this is also a way that you can look at things in a different way. And now they're very proud of proud of me, and I'm really proud of myself as well that I took that stand for myself, and I am able to do what I really want to. And just like normal stuff like moving out of the house that you used to live in, and for a parent to especially for a girl, when you have a daughter and your parents are hearing that your girl wants to move out, it's not easy, but we live so close by, I can just take a walk, and because I can't cook, so I have to go to my parents' house to eat, and that way I get time to spend with my family as well. But I would sleep sometimes there also. It's not that I have my own house, so I would always be here. I would only be here when I want to work, because this is the space I love to be in, and I'm a very self-centered person that way, so I don't like too much crowd. Even when I'm with my family, I like to be in a separate room. That's something not everybody knows, but yeah, I like to be with myself. I like peace and just that emptiness around me.
Right.
I like that.
Great. So as a child, didn't any other instrument fascinate you? Because your dad gave you the bass. Let's start you with bass.
Right,
you
right.
never moved to a guitar or an Indian instrument or anything else?
Yes, I did actually. I wanted to play drums, but since we had a small house back then, Dad said it would be hard for him to, it would be hard for me to practice, or neighbors would have a problem because it's a loud instrument. And I said, okay, that's fine. So when I started doing gigs, I remember playing with a lot of tabla players. And I got fascinated and blown away by the way tabla sounded. Like, even today, I find it so interesting, because the stuff that you can do on it, I feel it's so close to bass. Like, I remember syncopating the same stuff which is done on tabla, just copying it and doing it on bass. Because all the triplets and all the minute stuff which I was hearing, I wanted to do it on bass. And every time I came back home after playing with a tabla player, I'd be like, how did they do it? And I would see things really closely. And I would come back home and I would work on myself and try to figure out my ways of incorporating it, like how I can do it. And just that's how I came up with all these different kinds of techniques. And of course, you watch a lot of videos and listen to different kinds of music, and you infuse that with your kind of playing and your kind of approach. So that's something I really loved about tabla, that I don't think there's nothing you cannot do what a tabla player can do. So I felt like tabla is really close. And even drums, like I felt like because I was playing with a lot of Carnatic bands and of course jazz bands as well, and just that difference between two bands, I used to love hopping in and out. But when I was playing with Carnatic bands, one thing I realized is there is a limitation on bass. But I was wrong that time, and I wanted to prove myself wrong. That's something. So every time I would hear people trading, like Jugalbandi, every time I would hear people trading, I would be like, okay, so bass sounds really weak in that sense. That time, I was like 13, 14, 15 that time. And I would always think how I can do the same things on bass and how I can make it sound more powerful. So every time I would come back home and I would start working on things, and I would record everything in my mobile so I can try and pick up the same things a drummer would do. And I ended up playing the same stuff that a drummer would do. And that's why when I do like master classes and workshops nowadays, people ask me, how can you play the same thing? Like it sounds like a bass player is drumming on bass. And I would always reply saying to that, you have to work on yourself that way. And it depends on what you actually want to do. It's very inclined towards technical subject. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but it's something that I enjoy doing. So even today I find out ways that works for me, and I just love doing it. So that's something I love, enjoy.
And what kind of music did you listen to while you were growing up or playing?
A lot of Jaco Pastorius, Weather Report, Herbie Hancock, Level 42, Stevie Wonder, Bob Marley, Chick Corea, all these kind of stuff.
Anything from
George
India,
Benson.
Bollywood, because your father is from the Bollywood industry, so...
Unfortunately, not. But I love Bollywood industry as well. It would be wrong to say I don't play for it, because I get a lot of questions regarding that why don't you play for Hindi movies? But it's wrong. I do play for Hindi movies, and I have worked for a lot of Hindi movies. I don't know what are the names of the movies I've played in, because every time I go and I play, I don't ask. I just do my work and I come back.
So do you get notes? Or
no, you go there and then sometimes you get sheet music, sometimes you don't. So most of the time it's just like you go there and you listen to the song and you write your chart, you make your own chart, and then you play through it. But also you get directions sometimes from the music director, how he or she wants it to be like. Because my approach towards music is very Western, because I built my chops, I built my approach towards music and my style of playing in a way that would work in a Western band. So when I would get called for like a Hindi song, it would have to change because that's not something every music director would enjoy. But I think with AR that worked because he liked the fact that the rhythm section was Western, infusing with his Indian melodies. Because his songs are so different, but he wanted the bass and drums to sound really international. And that's why when I'm playing in his band, I am not playing like an Indian bass player,
In the live shows?
Yeah, anywhere, even in his sessions. Okay. Like I would always follow my own style, like my own sound. And here's something I believe. The most effective and transformative creations are when the individual goes deeper than the technique and the technique is mastered. So a lot of people have more technique than others, but it's sort of relative because the effectiveness is based on the inspiration and quality of the work, or that just flows through you. And you as a person are seen through your playing. So if your heart is not as pure as it should be, then you're gonna end up spreading impurity in the music industry. And I say this every time. Like I've told this to Ranjit uncle and AR and people I love listening to, that I believe in every generation there is an evolution of sorts in all fields, but at certain times in history there is a sort of quantum leap, sometimes referred to as the paradigm shift as well. And I hear that shift happening on this planet right now every time I hear them playing and their music. And it gives me so much joy that people are creating awareness in this industry and people are putting in so much effort and trying to build a community that not only works for the musicians but works for the whole system as in terms of humanity and not just musicality, And me as a person also, when I talk to people, when they say to me that I want to become a musician, I want to become a jazz artist or whatever, I would always reply to them saying that first be a better person. Try to do something for the nature, try to do something for your own family, or try to do something which makes you satisfied. Doesn't have to be related to music, like I said, because your efforts that you would take in life would be so interconnected to music, because that's your voice. Music is a language, like everybody says. What does that mean? It's something, when you're playing, your voice comes through, your voice comes out of your playing. And it's something it's going on in your mind, and you're trying to sync your mind and heart and your voice, which is your instrument. And just that ability to infuse that with a deeper sense of uniqueness and freshness, it's unlimited. So, and then you feel the desire of more, which is never enough. And that hunger, that want has to be there. If it's not there, and if you feel like, okay, you've done it all, then there's nothing you're looking forward to. So yeah, that's something I really believe, and I want people to understand it in a right manner.
Well, that's really deep what you said.
Oh yeah.
It has many implications and
Yeah,
in
yeah.
various aspects of
Yeah,
life,
yeah,
whether
yeah.
you're connected to music or
Exactly,
not.
exactly.
So, Mohini, your experiences in studios, with working with different bands, different music
directors,
directors,
yeah.
different cities,
Oh, yeah.
different recording studios.
Right.
How do you kind of adapt yourself? Do you take time? Do you kind of first uh, get used to that environment, or you just reach there, listen to the song, play, get out?
Like I said, it's been, when I was talking to you earlier, it's been 12 years in this industry. I'm 21 now. I started playing when I was 9 professionally. So it's been a very long time I've been in this industry, and I've seen things really closely because of my father, because I used to travel with him, and of course doing my own work as well. I was lucky to have the right people around me who would give me advice and give me the right direction towards things, because there's always two sides in every field, and you don't want to get carried away. So that's something I learned from my elders and my mentors in the industry. Everybody I played with, I feel like whoever I play with, I kind of take something good out of them. And so I feel like everybody I've played with has been my mentor in some way or the other. So experience matters. To be answering your question, I think experience matters, and since I've been in this industry for quite some time now, and since I've worked with different kinds of music directors, I feel now I know how I should work, and I can judge people well. So every time I meet a new director, it would be really easy for me to understand what he wants. So things like that, when you start understanding what you need to be working on yourself, then you start working on yourself much harder, and just like little things here and there, how to talk to people because they're older to you, and and you, as in my head I was ahead, like now I feel like I'm so old in my mind, like I'm already 40 in my mind, like I feel so tired and lazy. But back then I used to be like, you know what, I'm just 15, and if I talk to them like that, what I'm thinking in my head, they might take it in a wrong way. So you have to be able to deal with people in a right manner that way, and you have to be very careful with your words. So that's something I learned when you every kid should pick up those things. Those little things really matter in your upbringing in the industry and as a person. So yeah, just experience, like I said, experience matters, and that's why I am what I am today, I guess.
Nice.